Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video on the Gooners and Gloves Podcast channel. In today's video, it's going to be the 67th Gooners and Gloves Podcast, and I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts heading into the Arsenal vs Paris Saint-Germain Champions League semi-final. Obviously, this is an absolutely massive game. Both clubs have never won the Champions League, and now they both have the opportunity to go through to the Champions League final in Munich. So obviously, a huge game that I'm very excited for. I want to give a huge shout out to the Arsenal women's team who just won the Champions League semi-final and are now through to the Women's Champions League final against Barcelona. A massive achievement, so huge shout out to the Arsenal women's team. Obviously, they lost the first leg and were a goal down heading into Lyon, but in spite of that, they went to Lyon, they put on a fantastic performance, they sealed a great comeback, and will now play Barcelona in the Women's Champions League Champions League final. So massive shout out to the Arsenal women's team, and hopefully now the Arsenal men's team can follow suit. Hopefully we could even get the exact same final for both the men and the women. Obviously the women's final is Arsenal-Barcelona, and the men's final could very well end up being Arsenal versus Barcelona. Obviously, it'd be amazing if we got Arsenal-Barcelona because obviously of the story where we ended up losing the 2006 final and now get the rematch. But obviously, before we think of any of that, we now have to face Paris Saint-Germain. So it's the first leg tomorrow at the Emirates. Massive game. Now, unlike Real Madrid, we actually have already played Paris Saint-Germain this season. Back in October of 2024 in the group stage, we beat them convincingly 2-0 at the Emirates Stadium. But obviously, this is a much different Paris Saint-Germain side now. They've been in fantastic form. Obviously, they ended up winning the title unbeaten. Obviously, they did lose their first game against Nice, but before that, they won the Liga and title undefeated. So obviously, that's a great achievement from them. And they've been in fantastic form in the Champions League, obviously eliminating Liverpool, which many people consider to be the favourites, and dealing with Aston Villa. Though that being said, they did nearly let it slip. I'm not going to lie. In that Villa Park game, had it not been for some Gianluigi Donnarumma heroics, we could very well have been talking about Arsenal versus Aston Villa. But in spite of that, they did get the job done. Arsenal have also been in great form in the Champions League, obviously having finished third in the Champions League group stage table, destroying PSV, and then beating Real Madrid very, very comfortably in the quarter-final as well. And now here we are in the semi-final against Paris Saint-Germain. So massive game. So first I'm going to go on and just go over some team news and how I feel heading into the game. So obviously there's some very interesting lineups and also battles on the pitch in this game. First, let's start off with Bukayo Saka versus Nuno Mendes. So obviously Nuno Mendes has been, in my opinion, one of the best left backs in the world. This guy's been absolutely unbelievable. He obviously completely contained Salah in the round of 16 against Liverpool. He completely contained Salah in that round of 16. Nuno Mendes completely stole the show across both legs, completely contained Salah, created lots of opportunities, and was just an absolute rock in that left back position. Not only that, but also he scored in both games against Aston Villa. Super attacking defender. You could definitely make a case that Hakimi and Mendes is one of the best left back and right back pairings in the world. Genuinely, Mendes and Hakimi may very well be the best full back pairing in the world. So Nuno Mendes, an unbelievable defender. He was obviously fantastic against Salah, and now he will come up against Bukayo Saka in the semi-final. Now, these two did face each other in that aforementioned game at the Emirates in October of 2024, and I would say all in all that Bukayo Saka did get the better of Mendes on multiple occasions. He created good opportunities. Obviously, Saka ended up scoring, so it was a really good game from Saka against Mendes. But again, this is a much improved Mendes who has since then completely grown in confidence, scored in both games against Aston Villa, contained Mo Salah across 2 games, so it certainly will not be an easy prospect for Bukayo Saka. Saka's obviously still trying to find his fitness, so definitely not going to be an easy battle for Saka, but obviously I've got full belief in Saka's ability and his quality to be able to get past Mendes. You know, Mendes is obviously a fantastic defender, but as we saw, he isn't perfect, and he did even get beat a couple of times by Rodgers across those 2 games. So it's not an easy, it's definitely not an easy prospect. It will be very tough for Saka to come up against Mendes again, but Saka did, in my opinion, get the better of him in that first game in October of 2024, and obviously we know that Saka is an absolutely quality winger, one of the best in the world, and definitely has the opportunity to get past Mendes, and I think he will be capable of it. But don't get me wrong, it will be tough. Mendes is obviously an incredible defender, and also we have to be careful with him from an attacking perspective because he's absolutely unreal from an attacking perspective as well. Brilliant player attacking wise. As I mentioned before, he did score in both games against Aston Villa, so not an easy player. But that being said, I've got belief in Saka's quality, and I do think that Saka can get the job done. Next, we've obviously got Gabriel Martinelli versus Hakimi. So obviously Hakimi is in right back, and again, he's obviously had a fantastic season. He's been really good. He's scored and assisted a couple, and obviously has been incredible alongside Nuno Mendes. He's just such an absolutely incredible partnership. He's super attacking. He's obviously got great defense. He's got great passing. So it will be a difficult job for Gabriel Martinelli to come up against Hakimi. But again, I think Gabriel Martinelli's definitely been improving recently. I think he's been starting to find his stride. He's obviously been good in the Premier League. He did really well in the 2 games against Real Madrid, especially the Bernabeu game, where he even ended up winning us the game with a fantastic finish. So certainly going to be a very interesting battle, that one. Gabriel Martinelli versus Hakimi. Obviously Hakimi is a rock solid defender and is incredibly experienced. But that being said, Gabriel Martinelli has been growing in confidence and in my opinion has been improving a lot this season, especially after a bit of a slower start in sort of the first half of the season. I think Gabriel Martinelli has definitely picked up form and I think he's doing well. So that's definitely going to be a very interesting matchup, Gabriel Martinelli versus Hakimi, and it's going to be very interesting to see that across 2 legs. Definitely a tough task for Gabriel Martinelli, but also a tough task for Hakimi as well. Let's make it clear. Like, Gabriel Martinelli is obviously electric. He's fast. He's a good dribbler. He can definitely get past players, and I think on his day he can really cause Hakimi some problems. So there's that one. And then obviously flipping the script over to the Arsenal defense against the PSG attack. Obviously Arsenal are going to have to be completely on it, no doubt about it. The Arsenal defenders are going to have to be on it. That front 3 of Desiree Doué, Ousmane Dembele and Kvaratskhelia is one of the best in the world in my opinion. So our defenders are going to have to absolutely be on it, definitely, no doubt about it. Obviously Dembele, Doué and Kvaratskhelia are just such a lethal attack, very, very dangerous, and obviously we're going to have to really, really be at the top of our game for this. So first we've got, I'm guessing it's going to be Jurrien Timber starting at right back. I would be very surprised if it's not Jurrien Timber. I'd be very surprised if he goes for Ben White, so I think it will be Jurrien Timber, and obviously he's going to be up against Kvaratskhelia. Kvaratskhelia for me is an absolute baller. This guy is so good. He's been unreal ever since he's come to PSG. I think PSG absolutely got a great deal on him. Sorry, I just hit my table. PSG got a great deal on him, and I think he's been absolutely fantastic this season. So definitely not going to be an easy job for Jurrien Timber. But that being said, I think Jurrien Timber has been absolutely unreal this season as well. So I've got full faith in Jurrien Timber that he will be able to contain Kvaratskhelia, because genuinely speaking, I can't think of one single winger this season who's had a good game against Jurrien Timber. For me, the guy's just been an absolute beast in defense. He's so good. He's so solid. He's so just completely just calm. He's got such a great calmness about him. He's really, really good in defense. So Jurrien Timber for me has been absolutely incredible. So while Kvaratskhelia is in great form and has no doubt been a great player, I just remember him in that Liverpool game just completely getting down, you know, that left hand flank so comfortably. He was so good in that game and was doing fantastically. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup between Timber and Kvaratskhelia, but I do definitely have faith in Timber. I think Timber's been fantastic this season. I think he's been defending so well, and I think he's definitely going to be able to pull it off. So it's great from Jurrien Timber, and hopefully he can contain Kvaratskhelia, because Kvaratskhelia is an absolutely incredible winger and definitely very dangerous, and a big part of why PSG's attack has been so good. And then moving to the other side, we've got, again, I'm assuming it's going to be Miles Lewis-Skelly. Obviously, I'm pretty sure Calafiori still isn't fit to play, but even if he was, Miles Lewis-Skelly's just been so good that I think he's definitely going to play. So this one's actually going to be a first time battle, because back in the October game, it was actually Ricardo Calafiori who played in that left back position. So also Desiree Doué didn't even finish the game either. So it was actually Ricardo Calafiori against Desiree Doué. So this is going to be a very interesting one, because obviously this time it's going to be Miles Lewis-Skelly against Desiree Doué. To be fair, Calafiori didn't have a bad game against Doué. I thought he did quite well. He contained him decently, but definitely, as we know with Calafiori, there are times he kind of gets skilled up a bit, and I definitely think that while for the most part he did well against Doué definitely at multiple points was able to get past him, and definitely was able to pull off some good skills to get past. But I do think that Miles Lewis-Skelly's been so good. Obviously, Miles Lewis-Skelly was absolutely incredible across both legs against Real Madrid. The guy is just so strong, so dominant, and it's just incredible to me at 18 years of age how strong he is. The fact that he's able to sometimes even bully grown men off of the ball, it's just incredible to see. So Miles Lewis-Skelly versus Desiree Doué is definitely going to be a very interesting one. Obviously, they're both very young players. Miles Lewis-Skelly is only 18 years old and Desiree Doué is only 19 years old, so it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, two very young, very incredible players, so it's going to be very good to see, and it's going to be interesting to see how Miles Lewis-Skelly deals with Desiree Doué. Obviously, in my opinion, Desiree Doué is definitely one of the best young players in the world, probably one of the best under 20s in the world right now. The guy's an absolute baller. He was incredible against Aston Villa, and he did very well against Liverpool, so he's just a great player. Very, in my opinion, one of the best prospects in world football right now. But that being said, in my opinion, so is Miles Lewis-Skelly. Miles Lewis-Skelly for me is also one of the best young prospects in world football. So for me, this is very much two of some of the best young prospects, under 20 players coming up against each other. Miles Lewis-Skelly and also Desiree Doué. So I'm incredibly excited to see how Miles Lewis-Skelly does against Desiree Doué. And then obviously we've got Ousmane Dembele, who's just in the absolute form of his life, the form of his career. The guy's just been absolutely unreal, brilliant player, and he's been so good this season. So it's obviously going to be the job of William Saliba and Jakub Kiwior to contain him. But that being said, I've got pretty good confidence in Saliba and Kiwior. Obviously, a couple of mistakes recently from Saliba, but honestly, I wouldn't think too much into it. I'm seeing so many people just thinking so heavily into this, and I just don't see why. Like, William Saliba is an absolutely brilliant defender. He's world class. He's insanely good, and a couple of small little mistakes are not going to make me, change my opinion on that. But that being said, give a shout out to Jakub Kiwior. Jakub Kiwior has been absolutely unreal. Massive respect. I'm a huge fan of Kiwior. I'm so happy for him. I think he's been so good recently. He was excellent in both of those Real Madrid games against Kylian Mbappe, and in my opinion, he will do well against Ousmane Dembele and also just generally their attack. I think Kiwior is a fantastic defender, and he's been so good recently, so massive shout out to him. He even just scored a goal against Crystal Palace, which I was ecstatic about because it was great to see him scoring a goal, and hopefully he can carry on some of that set piece threat into this game. Obviously, it was a fantastic header from an Odegaard cross against Crystal Palace, so hopefully we can see some more of that attacking threat in the PSG game. So yeah, buzzing for him. So obviously Dembele, very good, but that being said, I've got full faith in William Saliba and Jakub Kiwior that they'll be able to pull it off. Obviously, something else to mention is that PSG do have a very good midfield as well. Their midfield has been great. Obviously, Vitinha has been fantastic this season in that number 6 position. He's been excellent. He's been so good defensively. He's given so much solidity to PSG's defense. And then obviously Neves and Ruiz on that left and right hand side, certainly doing very good, honest work. Delivering assists, delivering good passes, and just, tireless runners. So definitely very good midfield there. But that being said, our midfield has been fantastic this season. You saw against Real Madrid how good our midfield was. Although obviously we do now have a key suspension. Unfortunately, we do have a player that is suspended. So for that reason, we're going to have to change the midfield around slightly. But in spite of that, it's still a very good midfield. In my opinion, we have such a great midfield. It's so calm, composed. And I think that was actually a big reason why we won the October game against PSG back at the Emirates, because our midfield battle, we just completely, dominated that midfield battle in that game, and I think that really helped us. And I would say we did the same against Real Madrid. We dominated the midfield battle. Our midfield was just so good. So I think it's going to come through again in the tie. So obviously we're going to have to make a big decision on who we play in that midfield, especially with the suspension that we now have. Obviously Rice and Odegaard, I'd imagine, will definitely play. So Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard, I think, will for sure play. But then I think there's definitely a decision to be made on who that third midfielder is for this game. Obviously the other one is suspended, so we're going to have to see who plays in that third midfield position. A lot of people are saying to just put Mikel Merino in there, give us that solidity, put him at the number 6, or put Rice at the number 6. There is also Jorginho who's an option, although obviously Jorginho did get injured against Brentford, and I'm not sure how his fitness is looking, so we're obviously going to have to wait to see what Mikel Arteta says at tonight's press conference. But in my opinion, Rice and Odegaard will definitely play, and then I think in the number 6, there's definitely multiple options. You could go for Jorginho, you could go for Merino, maybe you could just go for Rice in that number 6. So it's going to be very interesting. You could even go for Trossard in midfield somewhere, although I don't personally see that happening. But in my opinion, it likely will be it could be Rice in the DM and then Merino and Odegaard on the left and right, or it'll be Merino in the number 6 and then Rice and Odegaard on the left and right. And then finally, it could also be Jorginho. So that's definitely a bit of a debate. Obviously, the back line, I don't see changing at all. I think the defense stays exactly the same. No reason to change that. And then obviously up front, Saka and Martinelli on the left and the right, pretty self-explanatory there. And then if it isn't Merino in midfield, then obviously you put Merino at 9. If it is Merino in midfield, you could put Trossard in. And to be fair, there is definitely a case to be made for Trossard starting this game as the number 9, because guys, Trossard's been in fantastic form. There's no question about it. Trossard's been excellent so far in the last few games. Obviously in the Premier League, he just keeps on scoring, keeps on assisting. He's been so good in that number 9 position. So I think there is definitely a case to play him in the number 9 and maybe put Merino in that midfield to kind of give us that, just that complete solidity that we've been having. Obviously Marino's a great DM, so would be really good for that solidity. And also I just think it's really hard to bench a player that's been doing as well as Trossard has recently. You know what I mean? Like, Trossard's been so good. He's been in incredible form. He's been fantastic for us in the last few games, so I think it's just really hard to bench him. So I think the midfield is the big dilemma, but aside from that, we will get a pretty consistent lineup. So obviously in goalkeeper we'll have Raya, no real change there. Obviously at left back, it most likely will be Miles Lewis-Skelly. I don't really see it being anyone else. I think Miles Lewis-Skelly has locked that position down. down. So I think we'll get Mars Lewis-Skelly in that left back position. I think obviously we know it will be William Saliba and Jakub Kiwior in centre back. Clearly it won't be Ben White because Ben White still isn't fit enough. So it will be Jakub Kiwior and William Saliba in the centre back positions. And then obviously right back, Jurrien Timber. No real debate there. Jurrien Timber's been unreal. The midfield, as mentioned before, there is a bit of a question mark. I personally think it probably will be Rice, Odegaard and Mikel Merino, and maybe put Trossard at number 9. We'll see what happens. I don't really mind, but in my opinion, it probably will be Merino dropping to the midfield for this game. So I personally see it being maybe Merino at number 6 and then Rice and Odegaard on the sides, or maybe Merino and Odegaard. So I'm going to go with probably Rice at number 6 and then Odegaard and Merino on the left and the right. That's personally what I think Arteta will go with, but obviously we'll have to wait and see. And then the front three, it could very well be Saka, Martinelli. Obviously we know that will definitely happen. And then, as I said, if it's Merino in the midfield, then it'll be Trossard up front. If Merino doesn't go to the midfield, then probably maybe Trossard in midfield and then Merino up front. So there's definitely a few question marks as a result of the suspension, but I think it'll be a fairly consistent lineup. Same back four, same goalkeeper, fairly similar midfield, and then basically the same front three. So it's going to be a fantastic game. Obviously, I don't really see PSG making too many changes either. As far as I'm aware, they don't really have any key suspensions. So obviously Donnarumma in goal, who, by the way, Donnarumma has been unreal as well. That's definitely going to be another challenge for us. You know, Donnarumma pretty much single-handedly saved PSG from getting eliminated against Aston Villa. So yeah, Donnarumma in goal. Obviously Hakimi and Mendes on the left and the right, and then obviously Berardo and Pacho in midfield. Neves, Vitinha and Ruiz will be pretty standard, and then obviously Doué, Dembele and Kvaratskhelia up front. So yeah, all in all, it's going to be a fantastic game, some really interesting battles, and I just can't wait. But again, just like we did against Real Madrid, we have to believe, we have to embrace this challenge. Arsenal has my full backing and full belief for both legs, just like they did against Real Madrid, and hopefully we can see this one through, go through to the final, and have a massive day on May the 31st in Munich, and hopefully maybe even lift our first ever Champions League. But without further ado, that's going to do it for my thoughts heading into the game. All in all, a fantastic game. I can't wait. It's going to be a huge semi-final. Obviously, another great semi-final is Barcelona versus Inter Milan, but Arsenal versus Paris Saint-Germain, first leg tomorrow at the Emirates. As always, I'll be posting my reaction to the first leg as soon as the game is over, so look out for that tomorrow night. But without further ado, I'll catch you guys on another podcast soon. I want to thank you all for the support you've been giving me recently. We're so close to that 100 subscriber milestone, currently sat at 96, so if you do want to help me out, please do. I'd really appreciate it. But without further ado, I'll catch you guys on another podcast soon. Bye bye.